Gonna have to 3-point turn this one. Watch the Elco. Oh shit, I don't know if I want to make that. So today what we got going on is we are working on this land yacht. I gotta watch out for the El Camino. So the plan is, with the car that's 20 feet long, you gotta get it on the ground as low as possible. So today that's what we're doing. We're putting air ride in the Cadillac. Watch the front.
And now, you're watching the Just in Time for 2025. Check out my brand new account over on TikTok, channel, YouTube. Welcome to Bodie Vision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me yet again on another video. So we got the LAC. How is this thing more than halfway in the shop, but more than halfway sticking out the shop? How does that work? Well, I'll tell you how it works. It's 20 feet long. So with the car being this long, the best thing that we can do is put it on air and get it to the ground as low as we can get it. And that's exactly what we are going to do right now. So I want to get into it, show you the kit, everything that we have that we are going to be throwing on this thing. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and get it up in the air, maybe get the front tires pulled off. I haven't even looked at this thing at all. Pulled it from over there to over here, and we're diving in this thing together, man. Exciting stuff. So we've been getting messy in the shop today, man. I'm not usually doing work this dirty or this type of dirty. I guess doing paint job, sanding and all that stuff. Stuff gets dirty, but I gotta get stuff cleaned up. So it is what it is. Let me show you what's going on underneath. We have to do a little bit of cutting, a little bit of trimming. I have one side completely done. The other side, well, this side is done. This side needs to be cut. Let me show you the difference. Let me show you the side that needs to be cut first. So if you can see, I have the bag under there and it's pretty close to the edge, so I kind of sharpied out where I need it to be cut. And you gotta understand that the bag is gonna get wider as it compresses. So that side is untouched, uncut. This side has all of the room in the world. And anywhere that it's two pieces of metal, like you can see right there that it's two pieces, that'll all be welded back together. So this is a really nice kit, pretty simple, pretty easy for me to install. Not much cutting required, but the cutting that is required is a little bit of a pain, but you gotta do it for the love of it, right? So just get yourself nice and protected. Can't go in there without protection, so I like this for my face because I'm not going to get sparks in my eyes. That's one thing that I don't like to mess around with, sparks in my eyes. I'm going to also have some ear protection. Get on my back and start grinding. Then we will get both bags in here. Then I have a temporary valve that I will show you more about a little bit later. I always keep these around, like I said. So I'll show you those when we actually need them. For now, I have some cutting to get done.
Get ready for the giveaway of a lifetime, El Chapo, the world's first turbocharged Honda-powered 1984 Chevy El Camino. That's right, this isn't just a car, it's a rolling piece of history with a turbo B20 engine, all-wheel drive, and a custom build you've been following right here on the channel. You could drive away in this one-of-a-kind beast. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Head to the link in the description and lock in your spot today. And there you have it, folks. I'm Dumb Trisha Max Load. Now let's back it up and get back to the video.
moving right along. So with this kit from BC Fab, this is actually a bolt-in kit, but you could bolt it in if you'd like, or you could weld it if you like. You can do whatever you want with your project. I mean, that's just how it goes. So I opted to weld it in. I feel like it's a little more solid. I feel like bolting it in would probably be fine too, but any chance that I get to hop on my HTP welder and burn some metals together is a pleasure. So I decided to weld it out. Now, the thing is, this kit is for DeVille. This is a Fleetwood, so I don't know if there's just a couple subtle differences. I'm assuming that there is, because the top of the bag right here, this threaded part was centered for the kit, which would go through the shock hole over there. See, I even welded it to reinforce it a little bit. That would go through there, but with it being centered, it pulled the cup too much towards the outside of the vehicle. It needed to go in by about 1.5 inches. So I just went ahead and I relocated that rod so that way everything's good to go. See, that's what it takes messing around with these old cars. You just got to be prepared to do the unexpected, especially because they did not have a kit for the Fleetwood. They said the DeVille will probably work. The DeVille kit is going to work. I just had to make a little bit of changes. So now that I put it all together, mocked up and everything, I want to paint it before I put it in for the final install. You guys know I can get pretty crazy with the paint jobs, doing full cars and whatnot, but something like this, all it needs is the rattle can special, so that way we can get it painted, get it dried, put the front together for the final time, and then eventually move to the back of this thing. Making great progress thus far. Bro, do you see this thing? Now, a word to the wise. If you know this already because you are wise, word to the wise. That's a weird statement because the wise might not need the help. So let me give you a tip. If you're ever messing around with bags or air riding anything and you have not tested the system to see if it is going to work, well, first let me show you the tester, and then I will give you my my point here that we need to discuss. So let me show you this tester. I built this a while ago when I was doing air rides for C10. So what I have here is I could just plug this into my shop. This is just like a regular fitting, and then this is a push-on air fitting for the airlines. When I want to air up the bags, I open it up. When I want to disconnect it, close it off, pull this out, then I open it up, all of the air will come out. So I'm not getting air locally, like in the entire system with all the compressors and all the tanks, because that's not set up yet, but we also don't want the vehicle to just be stuck, so I can use external air by using this guy. So the tip that I wanted to mention, even though the car right now is really low and looks really good, it is actually sitting on the jack. I do not want to get rid of the jack because then the jack might be stuck if I cannot lift the car. So let's, moment of truth, see if this thing will lift up, which is a little bit nerve-wracking because if it doesn't work out, you're going to see it live and in action. So let's see. So we got my push-on fitting pushed right there. I'm going to plug in the air. You'll hear it click, click, and then let's see if we can go up with this thing. We are not going up. Maybe I'll have to do one side at a time because to fill up both bags seems like it might be a little bit too much. I don't hear anything leaking, but we did not come up like we should. So let me figure out what's going on. That's why we keep the jack under there, and I will report back in just a second with the verdict. So let me show you what we all want to see, and then I will explain to you what my problem was. And my problem has to do with the fact that the lack is a big girl. So let me air it out So let me air it out. Even though it is only up a few inches right now, it can at least get back to this height, so check it out. So that's aired out. The cross member is just like 1/8 of an inch from the floor. I'd like this thing to lay out all the way, but I'll also take what we can get for the first go round. If I want to come back and do any kind of major crazy customizations or modifications, I can go ahead and do that. But dude, the lack is laid out. So I was all confident with my air and everything because I have a gigantic compressor that I'm painting with, and I was like, yeah, that should work because I've done it before, but I also haven't had to push a car that's as heavy as a big block in a lack. So I have my little things. I have one of these per side. So I got 2 of these guys. So I was thinking to give it a little bit more pressure, I'll just do one and then the other, so that way eventually I can cycle it up. But the problem isn't volume of air. I have 10 times the volume of air that I need. The problem is pressure. So my compressor shuts off at about 120 PSI. My regulator was set to 90. So I bypassed the regulator so that way we're getting 120 PSI straight from the air compressor, but that's still not enough. Keep in mind, the pressure that a normal tank for an air ride system usually has about 200 PSI that it's just ready to throw at that bag. The bag itself isn't going to inflate to 200 PSI, but all of that air is ready to go in the bag, and then for the bag to get up to around 100 PSI or so. So we just don't have enough PSI for us to lift this thing up. So I was able to pull the jack out. So let's go ahead and get it up as high as we can. Then maybe I'll pull it on some ramps, and then maybe inflate it with a little bit more air if possible. And then we need to transition into getting to the back of this thing, man. Woo! The lack is gonna be laid out. And I am so hyped, dude. A really long car laid out, it does not get any better than that. So now we have the back of the lack pulled in the shop, so that way we can start, you know, gotta straighten this out, keep her straight. So now we want to move on to the rear. I don't want to jinx it, but I think the rear should be a little bit easier because this is kind of like a factory 4-link setup, or I don't know, I kind of think it's that way. It looks that way to me. So if you can see over here, what I'm gonna go for is ripping out the shock right there. We have the spring that needs to get out of there. You can see an upper factory link going over there. There's a lower link right there. And the rear is supposed to be bolt on for over here. If I need to trim the cup for it to get down a little bit, that's okay. I might have to do that. I'll address that when we get there. But what I want to do is start ripping out the shocks. And my goal is we want to get the axle to sit on the frame and then see where it is. If everything looks nice and solid and we're about 1 inch from the ground all throughout, I think I'll be okay with that. And the front, we're sitting about 2 inches, about 1.5 inches as it is right now when it's aired out. If I wanted to go with a drop spindle, I can easily do that to get this thing to lay on the ground. I'm not going to make any of those calls or spend any more money until we see this thing laid out as it is, or how low it is going to be. So let's get to work. So this kit is bolt-on, but I wanted to show you a couple of the changes that I'm making because I'm going to weld it in, so as I'm doing that, we might as well make it a little better. So this plate is meant to go right there where it's sitting. I like it like this so that way I can weld it all the way out. If it was over there or over there, we'd have gaps, so I want it indexed that way. I had to cut this little knob off. Now, the kit comes with a plate to go underneath. But if it's underneath, there's going to be a gap between here and where the plate goes through, so there's going to be a gap with the threads, and I don't necessarily like that. Yeah, of course, I think it would be fine, but the way that I'm working around that is I'm going to put this in here at the correct, or at the exact level that it needs to be, so then this will all get welded out. Now this area down there is a little bit lower. That's okay. What really matters is the surface that I'm bolting it to. I don't really want a gap in between the threads, although it would be fine. That's just the way that I'm doing it. So let's go ahead and get the HTP fired up, weld this thing together, and then we will cycle the rear end. You got a lot of experience cycling rear ends? So right now, at this point, we have the physical install of the bags completed. Now there's still a lot of work to do. We got to do all the lines, as far as we got to go lines to the switches. In between the sending part of the switch, we have to break off and send it back to the gauge, so that way I know where I'm at with each bag. I also need to get different shocks. I need to install shocks for the fronts because shocks used to come up the center. Now I need to side mount them or mount them somewhere else. The shocks for the rear that were in here are going to be too long. Also, we had to modify the exhaust. We had the control arm hitting right there. It took me a little while to track down what is hitting where and why, but we got it figured out. So what I want to do is I want to be able to air this thing out, step back with you, and take a really good look at it. But I cannot bring it out too far, or I cannot air it out too far, because we still need to be able to hook back up to the air in my shop. So I stretched out my air line first, so that way I can see how far out I can be. The next phase of this is a lot more straightforward. It's just running lines, connecting them, figuring out where I want my gauges, wiring for the compressor, and then all that stuff. All that stuff shouldn't be too difficult. We got the hard part done, and I want to see how it looks. Bro, this thing is insanely gangster. I don't know if I normally go for gangster builds or for what I do, but this thing is so sick. So aired out right now, it's pretty neat because the car is still movable. There's like a good balance that you got to think of. I think it looks really good and really crazy when a car is completely beached when it's aired out, and that's kind of the purpose of air, is to get it on the ground. But right now the car can still roll. If I wanted to get it a little bit lower, we have a 2-inch discrepancy, or 2 inches to the ground, and these tires are pretty large. If I just went with a smaller tire, that would be okay. I could also do a drop spindle in the front if I wanted to, but once the car hits the ground, there's no reason to go any lower. So if I put a 3-inch drop spindle on here, that would just take 3 inches away from my lifted height, and right now at full lift I can get full lock, and that's cool. So I'm pretty happy with where it is and how it is. Another thing that I did is every supply line to the bag is inside the vehicle. Now we need to get air from the tank to the switches, but that can go inside of the car, so I should not have to be crawling underneath the car anymore, which is, man, if I had a lift, that would be so much easier, crawling around on my back, getting every single line ran and tucked. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Eventually we will get a larger shop and a lift and all of that stuff. So I'm just taking this thing in, man, and we got the hard part knocked out. I'm just looking at it, man. You just gotta look at it. I also really like the dinner plate hubcaps. I know some people were talking about wheels. Maybe I'd want to go with some Detroit steel wheels or something, like maybe like a 19 or a 20 would be pretty cool. But I'm also happy with how these look for now, and the tires are really good. So man, what a great week. What a great video, and what a great start to this build. So really quickly, I wanted to remind you that the body swapped Honda CR-V, I'm talking all-wheel drive, B-Series, turbo, Honda powered El Camino, super weird build. The opportunity to own that car is in the link down below. We are doing pre-sale right now for the tickets. I am still waiting on interior, well, the seats, and then we got to get it tuned. So once the car is completely done, we will do a full launch on the giveaway. But for now, if you wanted to get in there before everybody else doesn't hit that pre-sale up, I'd encourage you to do so, because those tickets are going to go quick at the official launch, if there is even any less. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Does your uncle's... Bro, your uncle does not have this car. He's got an El Camino. So that's going to be it for this one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video, comment, subscribe, hit the link down below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm out.